Ready to make fashion fireworks? Right now at Old Navy, get up to 60% off the entire store during Old Navy's Red, White, and New sale. Save big with items for $2, $4, $6, and $8, including women's tanks for just $2. Plus, 2 days only, tomorrow and Sunday, get flag tees for the whole family for just $2.50. All summer essentials up to 60% off, like flip-flops, tank tops, swimwear, and shorts at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Select styles only. Entire store offer valid 6/28 to 7/5. Excludes clearance, gift cards, register lane items, jewelry, today only deals, 2 day only deals.
Blog Talk Radio.
Once in a lifetime does a great author set the stage for a wonderful trip into the minds and lives of their characters. Yvonne Mason doesn't just write books, she crafts memorable experiences. Best-selling true crime fiction author Yvonne Mason will leave you on the edge of your seat and checking behind every corner for the weirdos that only real life can breed. Find her books on Amazon.com and make sure you check out such titles like Dreamcatcher, Failure Was Never an Option, The Pink Canary, and Silent Scream today.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday night. This is your host, Yvonne Mason, and of course you were visiting with us on Off the Chain. That was my ad man, Chris Dunham, who does all the ads for my books. And if you like a good crime mystery with a taste of comedy, and if you love all things Key West, and if you like to know more about the world of drag queens, get the Pink Canary, because I guarantee you it is fall down funny. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say thank you, as I always do, because without you, the listener, this show would not be successful. And without the guests that come on this show repeatedly, like my guest tonight, Arthur Wayne Zurl, this show would not be successful. This morning, when I ran the numbers, and I know y'all get sick of it, but there's a reason for the madness that I do this. This show alone has already jumped up to 11,571 listeners. That's just on this show. When you combine all the podcasts that I add this show to, we're well over 22,000 listeners and over 65 countries. And what it does for the guests that come on this show, it gives them a voice. It gives them a way to be heard in places that I've never even heard of. And the reason the show is successful is because of the guests and because of y'all, the listeners. I'm just a facilitator, and I love watching the numbers grow. I had a gentleman tell me, don't just go by the numbers, but numbers don't lie. And when I see some of my guests and the podcasts that are coming up, that people have listened to them, and I'm seeing 100, 250 listens on that particular show for that particular guest, my pride just swells like a new mother, because they are being successful, and that makes me very, very, very happy. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, I do talk a lot about the numbers, but numbers are very important. In fact, thank you, Australia. You guys are our biggest audience base on Blog Talk Radio. Y'all are 82% of my listening base, and I don't know if it's because y'all are so many hours ahead of us that you don't have anything to do at night, you listen to the show. I don't care what it is. I am just so grateful to have you as part of our Blog Talk Radio family. Thank you very, very much. So without further ado, tonight's show is with someone that I've just been so excited to get on this show, because we have a lot in common other than the fact we are authors. Arthur Wayne Zurl, who grew up in Long Island, retired after 20 years with the Suffolk County Police Department, which is one of the largest municipal law enforcement agencies in the state of New York and in the nation. And for 13 of those years, he served as a section commander supervising investigators. He is a graduate of SUNY, Empire State College, and served on active duty in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War and later in the reserves. Wayne left New York to live in the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee with his wife, Barbara. He couldn't have found a better place to live, ladies and gentlemen. If you've never been to the Great Smoky Mountains, that is God's country. Of course, I'm not prejudiced. I'm from the South. It just is. 27 of his Sam Jenkins novelette mysteries has been published as eBooks and many produced as audiobooks. Wayne's full-length novels are A New Prospect, A Leprechaun's Lament, Heroes and Lovers, Pigeon River Blues, A Touch of Morning Calm, A Can of Worms, and Honor Among Thieves. 3 anthologies that will put 18 novelettes in print for the first time are coming up this year. And a new novel, Abe Link Prospect, is on tap for 2018. Wayne has won the Eric Hoffer and Indie Book Awards and was named a finalist for the Montega Medal and First Horizon Book Award. He is a full member of the International Thriller Writers and a board member of the Authors Guild of Tennessee. So, ladies and gentlemen, give a great big welcome to author and veteran Wayne Zurl. And Wayne, I want to online, as the show is live, thank you for the service and the sacrifice that you made for our country. Welcome home, and I'm glad you're safe.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thanks very much. And it's nice to meet all your people. And if there are so many people from Australia listening, good day.
There you go. Thank you for adding that. Now, with the hour that we're going to run out of very quickly, let's just start with how in the world did you get here at this point in time? I'm not talking about moving to Tennessee. I'm talking about writing and being a cop and all the things that you've done. Was writing even on your radar growing up? Was it something you picked up along the way? How did you manage this?
I always had a little thing for writing. And when I was in school, the teachers kind of recognized that I was having fun doing that. And I volunteered to go to a thing called an advanced English workshop, which I thought would be something good to learn a little more creative writing. Unfortunately, that because of the teacher, it turned out to be nothing but a 6-month spelling test. But beyond that, as a cop, of course, I was writing every single day. As a patrolman out in one of the sector cars, every time we answered a 911 call, we had to write a little narrative report on a thing called the field report, and telling the police department what we did and justify our time. And, of course, then getting to be a detective and all, your reports got longer and the paperwork got more involved, and what you wrote may be something that might deprive someone of his freedom. So you had to be careful with what you said and how you said it. And, that just perpetuated through my 20 years on the job. After I got off and I retired and we relocated to Tennessee, I took a volunteer job with one of the Tennessee state parks, and I ended up writing publicity for their living history program. That got me into nonfiction, and I had, I think in 10 years, I did 26 magazine articles that were published. And I thought getting paid for writing was pretty cool. But after a while, I just couldn't think up any more thrilling things to say about the French and Indian War in Tennessee, and I passed that torch on to another volunteer. But I needed some sort of a creative outlet, and I decided that fiction might be something to do. And I thought, well, if I could write nonfiction, I could certainly write fiction, but I really knew nothing about the publishing business, and I thought that it would be just a snap, and certainly it's not. As any writer knows, getting into publishing is really difficult, and you have to persevere. Otherwise, you'll just be swept under the rug.
That is true. That is very true. And thankfully, because most of us indie authors have embraced the Internet, it has opened not only doorways and windows, but paths that before, not only would we have been swept under the rug, we'd have been swept out the door with the rest of the dirt and grime and grit and all of that. So I, for one, am tickled to death that you took that route, because not only apparently did writing the reports, and ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know anybody that's in law enforcement, let me tell you, when Wayne talks about writing reports, that is one of the things that is the most mundane that they hate doing, because they have to make sure all their I's are dotted and all their T's are crossed, because many, many times those reports are used as testimony in court. Am I right, Wayne?
That's correct. Yeah, it's the basis of any criminal complaint. You write your prosecution worksheet, and the attorneys work from there.
So they have to, and it has to be legible, ladies and gentlemen. They can't do what I call halfway reports. They can't abbreviate. It has to be something that a prosecutor can take and use to build the case with. So, yeah, writing is extremely important. And also, that led to, correct me if I'm wrong, but it led to you being a consultant on tour of duty, correct?
Yeah, that was a TV show in the 1980s about the Vietnam War, and I knew two of the people who had signed on as technical advisors early on, retired Lieutenant Colonel Mike Christie and an NCO named Lee Russell. And they asked me to come and give them a hand with the show. That was being filmed in Hawaii. Unfortunately, we didn't get unlimited access to Oahu, but we were on board with everything the producers and especially the logistical people were doing throughout the 2.5 years that the show ran.
Well, before the show, you and I were talking about how difficult sometimes it can be for someone who consults on, especially a law enforcement show, because we know they want dramatic effect, that they want to entertain their viewing audience. But between you and I and my husband, we tend to be hypercritical. That's also in some of the books we read. You want to explain why we tend to be hypercritical?
Well, I would say because we know more than the other people that are watching. And that's not anything against the other people, but they just didn't get the technical education that we got. So we know what is supposed to be done. Whereas Hollywood generally taints the public's vision of what a military operation or a police operation might be like. And just what we saw recently on most of the cop shows on TV that we were talking about, the people go into a gun confrontation with their finger off the trigger. Now, that's very safe in a Hollywood studio, but you couldn't possibly do that in real life because action time and reaction time is so quick, and the average gunfight probably lasts no more than 6 or 7 seconds. So you don't have time to do things that Hollywood would make you believe cops do. And the other thing is that, of course, police don't shoot the gun out of a bad guy's hand. They don't, a small person wouldn't take on a 6.5-foot iron worker and just subdue him with something he learned in the police academy 10 or 12 years prior to the incident. So Hollywood engages in fantasy police work. And unfortunately, a number of writers do the same thing. And they may even be best-selling writers. That's one of the things that I try to bring into my books. If you hear it from me, please believe that it's most likely at least 99.5% accurate and true as to what would happen in real life.
And it sadly, for those of us that have that kind of background, sometimes it drives us crazy. I know you said that your wife pokes you in the side and tells you it's not a documentary, and I catch myself telling my husband, honey, it's Hollywood, just go with it.
Yeah. You girls have, more tolerance, I think, than maybe the guys might have, and you kind of let things go where we wouldn't.
Well, some things I can't let go, especially when you've got a show comes to mind that we very seldom watch, and what happened was there was a shootout at a car, and the two detectives, the next scene, they're walking away going to do something else. Now, in real life, first of all, their badge and their gun would have been pulled. They would have been put on administrative leave until it was determined if it was a clean shoot or not. They wouldn't be going to find the other bad guy because they'd immediately be put on desk duty. And I'm going, this is wrong.
But that's Hollywood, yeah. And
I
that's
know.
what we have to accept, yeah.
It's so sad. So let's talk about Sam Jenkins. And before the show, ladies and gentlemen, another friend of mine, Miss Betty Dravis, who's been on this show, who is very familiar with people in Hollywood, especially Clint Eastwood. And she is also friends with Wayne here. And she found out Wayne was going to be on the show, and she puts up this little comment, and come to find out she and Wayne have been having this back and forth for, 10 years now, Wayne?
Just about, yes.
Explain to the folks what this is all about.
Betty keeps telling me that Dirty Harry Callahan, the Clint Eastwood character, is her favorite fictional cop, and Sam Jenkins is number 2. And I keep kidding her that Sam should be number 1 because he's more based in reality than Clint Eastwood's character. But, of course, Betty, who met and interviewed Clint Eastwood many years ago, just won't let that one go. So we just chide each other constantly about this. One thing that I have told Betty, and I'll tell you too, Yvonne, I used to teach criminal law in a police academy and a community college. Like every cop in New York, I had a number of part-time jobs. And I had people in the audiovisual research section of the police academy make up little film clips for training purposes. And we used any number of the Dirty Harry movies, especially the iconic remarks that Clint Eastwood would make, and we would stick them into these training films. Unfortunately, that only lasted a couple of years before the copyright infringements were discovered, and they told us, now, you either had to pay for Dirty Harry's presence or you had to stop using them. And the police department wasn't about to pay them, so they stopped using them. But yeah, Dirty Harry is one of my heroes. I don't think I would behave like Dirty Harry unless I had internal affairs on speed dial. But in any event, I liked his movies, crazy as they were.
And they were very entertaining. But then Clint Eastwood had that ability to make his characters very, very believable in anything. Even his B movies, his characters were very believable.
Yes. And
let's back up a little bit. Talking about IA, and ladies and gentlemen, for those of y'all who don't know what the IA stands for, it's Internal Affairs. It's the best that I could probably describe it, and Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's suits monitoring cops to make sure cops stay on the straight and narrow. And they're also called the Rat Squad. Now, you want to explain that terminology and why they're called the Rat Squad?
Well, they police the police. And no one on the job likes to get called into internal affairs for any reason. And most often, it's because a civilian has made a complaint about some action a policeman took, police officer. And in many cases, the people who are in internal affairs make that their career path. So they don't go out and do the traditional police work. They do this internal investigation based on civilian complaints. So in most instances, it's a them and us kind of a thing out there. I knew a number of people in internal affairs, and they were good cops. There's no doubt about it. But some people, you might say that they were a bit zealous in their prosecution of these police infractions. So that's where you have the conflict between the street cop and the internal affairs investigator.
Would it be fair to say that because IA is not out there on the street and they don't see the day-to-day contact that the patrolman has with the general public, that it might be difficult in some instances to understand where that cop might be coming from in the heat of the moment?
Everybody in a large police department starts out in patrol on the street. And generally speaking, most of the internal affairs investigators that I knew anyway got their job after they became some supervisory rank, because generally they, a sergeant will investigate a detective or patrolman, a lieutenant will investigate a sergeant, and they just engineer these things so that there is a psychological and a rank advantage over the person who's their target investigation. I think the problem is that once you're away from the street, it's very easy to forget what it's like, either at the lowest level, walking a footpost on a midnight tour where you're freezing and where you don't know what you're going to walk and find around the corner, to any of the things that happens to a street cop, regardless of what his or her assignment happens to be. If you're away from it, you're doing the inside work, and you're being dispatched to handle these complaints made by civilians, you're in a whole new world. It's just not the same as answering calls or investigating criminal matters.
So it would be fair to say that once one becomes an IA, that they have lost that edge. And I think you understand what I'm saying when I say the guy on the street, he has an edge to him. He's always cognizant of everything around him, of the heartbeat of the city, no matter what grid he's in. He knows what's going on. He knows the people as a general rule. He knows the demographics. He knows the geolocation. He knows what makes up that city. And when you're away from it, it's like if you don't use the second language all the time, you lose that ability. So would it be fair to say that someone in IA loses that edge that the everyday cop has?
It's something you do have to practice. So yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate, just exactly as you explained it.
That's kind of sad, because I think sometimes cops get a bad rap, and they don't, well, I'll say 99% of the time. Cops get a bad rap for things that they don't deserve to happen to them. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've never been in a firefight, and Wayne can probably back this up better than I can, but if you've never been in a firefight and you have to make a split-second decision, your training and your experience kick in, and if you don't do what you have to do, it could cost you or your partner a life. Am I right, Wayne?
That's correct. Yeah, every shooting investigation always includes someone from the firearms training unit to elucidate what training these people go through. And it's not just something you do once and then move on. This is training that you do over and over and over again until it gets to be a reaction, as opposed to something that you would have to ponder. In other words, when someone draws a gun or swings a tire iron at you, you know that you bring your weapon out, and if it's necessary, you are able to judge the necessity for the use of deadly force. And this is something that the general public just doesn't understand, and they shouldn't have to. In the recent couple of years, we've seen an awful lot of police shooting incidents that have been very high profile. And the one thing that truly troubled me, when high-ranking public officials would jump in prior to the culmination of the investigation and make some sort of a statement or a judgment about the police officer. And the one thing that we really need to impress upon the public is that a cop is entitled to the same due process that every other citizen is entitled to. So wait until the investigation is finished, whether it's by internal affairs shooting team or the FBI, who will most likely get involved if it's a possible violation of someone's civil rights, and see if there is reasonable cause to believe that the cop did something wrong. But don't try him or her in the media, and don't jump to conclusions until it's all over, and don't go out and riot and loot and create a havoc in a town because something happened and you don't particularly know the circumstances.
Yeah, because the rioting and the looting serves no purpose. It only aggravates the situation even more. It's like, I tell my mother, it's like picking at a sore. It just makes it bleed even more and creates even more ill feelings. If you're unhappy with what's going on, there's power in the written word.
Sure, everybody is entitled to voice an opinion and even peacefully protest, which everybody should understand. But to go beyond the law and expect that because you have a problem and grief and all that does not allow you then to infringe on someone else's rights, and that just shouldn't be.
Or to destroy
people view as an option.
Or to destroy someone else's property that's not even involved in the situation at all.
Exactly.
It's just an excuse to commit anarchy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And
they should all be locked up and charged with, I don't know, destruction of public property or private property or it's a shame we don't have stupidity on the books as being against them. But I have said this many times.
You would need a lot more jails. Yeah.
That's true. That is so true. But then on the flip side of that, ladies and gentlemen, real quickly, there have been some prisoners. One just happened in Georgia just here recently that were on a work crew and saved a guard's life. So it goes both ways. Yeah, they were in there for breaking the law, but they were smart enough to understand why they were in there, and it wasn't the guard's fault. They were in there, and they literally saved his life. So kudos to those guys. Let's talk about Sam Jenkins, because
sure.
Just from my reading your webpage and reading a little bit about your books, I come to like Sam, and I hadn't even read the book yet. And I kind of think maybe Sam Jenkins has a little bit of Wayne Zurl in him. Would that be a true statement?
Well, I always tell people that Sam Jenkins marched next to me in the Army. He sat across the aisle from me in the police academy. He got promoted pretty much the same time that I did in the police department. So we have a pretty good parallel of careers and all that. But I also want to impress that the stories I write are not autobiographical and they're not true crime. I base things on true incidents. However, to write good fiction, you have to fictionalize them, embellish them a little bit, and give the reader and the publisher what they want to see in fiction.
So Sam is a culmination of men and women that you've worked with and been in service with and done things with in your two careers, first as a member of Uncle Sam's Army and then in police work. Does Sam talk to you at strange hours of the day and night?
Every once in a while, Sam wakes me up at about 3:45 in the morning and says, "Here's a good idea for something that you should be writing." Yes, he jumps into my mind every so often. Sometimes I'm glad that he does what he does, and sometimes I think he's a pain in the neck and he should leave his opinions to himself. But we've been working now for 11 years together, so we're doing okay.
What made you decide to write about? Now, ladies and gentlemen, Sam Jenkins is Wayne's main character in his books, and he is a cop, correct?
Yes, yeah, he's a retired New York detective lieutenant who, after a number of years of retirement, took a job in Tennessee where he had relocated to when one of the local police chiefs got jammed up by doing something illegal, and they were in need of a new chief. So Sam applied for the job and was the best guy there at the time, so he signed on for a 5-year contract with a small police department not too far from where I live.
And would it be safe to say that just like when you moved south from Long Island, when Sam moved south from New York to a small area, it was a culture shock for him because he's gone from this huge police department that's 1,000 strong to this tiny police department that maybe has 5, 10 at the most. 12 people.
Yeah.
Was
Absolutely.
that a culture? Explain
yes,
a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Explain a little bit of that.
Well, the whole idea of changing your venue from New York, where everything was hustle and bustle and moving 100 miles an hour, down to a little town. It's a fictional town, by the way, Prospect, Tennessee, in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, where Sam might have been the only guy driving the speed limit on the main highway. Everybody else was taking it kind of slow. And things are just different down here. The people, of course, speak differently. He might say something, and people wouldn't grasp the exact meaning that he had. Sam is kind of a smart-ass. You know, he likes to get a laugh. He likes to be in charge. And the people might not really have been ready for Sam. And the big problem that he had was with the local politicians, and they did things in a very different manner than maybe he was used to. Of course, politicians are the same the world over, but he was not particularly enamored with the way some of the things were going on in his little city of Prospect.
And
so
ladies
they
and
bumped
gentlemen,
heads quite often.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm from the South. I'm from Georgia, and a lot of my ancestors are from East Tennessee. So I can appreciate where Sam Jenkins is coming from, because in these little towns and in the little county where I'm from, each little town within that county, as probably where Sam is from, each little town within the county is autonomous. It has its own laws for the police department. All the politicians are good old boys, and all of their goings on are done over a glass of bourbon and a handshake. Am I right, Wayne?
That could happen, sure. Yeah.
and they don't like city folk, especially them people from New York City, because they're gonna come in, they're gonna change things, and like Wayne said, Sam's doing the speed limit. Everybody else is taking their time because you kind of slow down when you get in the South. We don't get in a big hurry because there's always tomorrow. And sometimes people from the North have a hard time understanding that, especially when, and there's nothing wrong with it when you come from New York City and it's hustle and bustle 24/7. It's especially New York City itself never sleeps, right, Wayne?
Yes, that's correct. You can find somebody wandering the streets any hour of the day.
So Sam moves from New York City, where it's hustle and bustle 24/7, to this little town of Prospect that maybe has 500 people in this fictional town. It might have one stoplight. And you go to church on Sunday because it's on one corner. But at 6 o'clock at night, they roll up the streets. Would that be fair?
That's pretty close. Yes, it is.
Yes, I understand small towns. So, ladies and gentlemen, I can see Wayne as Sam Jenkins because was it kind of, but you had been down there a couple of times, so it might not have been a big culture shock for you then as it would have been if you just shown up one day and set down roots.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, we scouted the territory a number of times before we decided that we wanted to move here, and it took us quite a while to find the land that we wanted to build a house on.
Was it difficult acclimating to the different heartbeat of that part of the country, the slower pace, the quieter conversation, the just the entire different dynamic of being in the Deep South?
Yes. One of the things that I had to learn early on was that I can't talk to someone from Tennessee as rapidly as I would talk to somebody from New York. I've been here a long time now, and I can calm myself down and speak slowly. But as soon as I get together with a couple of people from back home, the conversation speeds up. My New York accent starts to get thicker, and I'm just back where I used to be on the block in Brooklyn. So, yeah, it's a big difference in not only culture, but what can I say? Flavor. The whole thing is very,
word.
Very different.
Yeah, because the food is different. The dynamic, the heartbeat of the South is very slow. Ladies and gentlemen, unless you're from the South, people don't get in a hurry in the South. When they say, I'll get around to it, they will get around to it. It might be 6 months from now, but they'll get around to it. But on the flip side of that, Wayne, if you're on the street in the middle of the night for whatever reason, and Uncle Joe comes from the local honky tonk down the street and you're broke down, Uncle Joe's going to put you in his truck and swerve you to the house.
Oh, sure he will. Exactly. Yes, that's very true. Yeah, people are very friendly down here. There's no suspicion, really. I mean, the people are certainly not foolish, but they take you more at face value than someone might in a large city in the Northeast.
And I
very
think
easy to get along down here.
Yeah, and they're willing to give folks a chance, and they take people for the most part where they are. Now, if you haven't had someone say this to you, just remember it's in the context of the conversation as to whether or not it's an insult or a feeling, a saying of empathy and sympathy. But if someone says, well, Wayne, bless your heart, they could be insulting you or they could be empathizing with you.
No, that's something that you hear all the time. You doing all right today? And they never expect an answer. Bless your heart, and Lord have mercy.
Yep. Yep, grew up with those two sayings all of my life. Now, what I want to know is when you dropped Sam down in the middle of Prospect, Tennessee, did you add that Southern flavor to the book?
Yeah, this is something that I ran into a problem with, and that's the way Southerners talk. It's a big controversy among writers. I read one of Stephen King's books called On Writing, which is a how-to book on how to be a writer. And Stephen King said, you write it the way you hear it. Mm-hmm. And I like that idea. Other people say you don't do that. Of course, everything is done in moderation, but I believe you should write dialogue the way you hear it. And I've always had a pretty good ear for language, which allows me, for all my traveling in the Army and all that, I can swear and order a beer in 8 different languages plus English. So I pick these things up, and I can pretty well duplicate what I hear around here in the Smoky Mountain region. Some people take offense to that, and they say, well, I'm from the South, and I don't speak that way.
But they do.
Somebody in Charleston, South Carolina, will not speak like somebody in Cosby, Tennessee. That's just like somebody in Ottawa will not speak like somebody in Montreal. So to say all Canadians speak alike, that's silly, and to say all Southerners speak alike, that's equally silly. I've met people from New Orleans who sound like they're from Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. So I do kind of recognize the way the folks talk in this Smoky Mountain region, because they're mostly Scotch-Irish that have been here since the 18th century, and this is the way they speak. So I try to duplicate that in the books. And if Stephen King said it was okay, I said, well, okay, I've got an ally there, and I'll do it too.
Hey, you got 2 allies, because I wholeheartedly agree with you, because it makes the story believable. It puts your reader in the story and in the region. And you're right. In the state of Georgia, ladies and gentlemen, and in the South in general, it's like Wayne says, if you go to Charleston, they talk very slow and very cultured because they were brought up under the true Southern way, and they draw out their words. And when you go down to South Georgia, down in Perry, they do that too. When you get up in the mountains, now they're gonna talk a whole different way, because, like they said, they're Scotch-Irish. They cut their G's off of their words. They say get for get. They say G-I-T for G-E-T. They say fixin' to. I could give you a whole dialect of Southernisms. And if you take them from one part to the other, it won't be the same. Would that be a true statement?
That's true. And I just want to defend myself and say that I'm an equal opportunist linguist, because when I write people from New York coming to see Sam Jenkins, they ask for a cup of coffee, and they tell them to open a window, and they go to the toilet. So, like I say, I write it the way I hear it.
I love it. But see, that's what makes the book so much fun, because you get to bring in all of these different dialects and dynamics and see the inner workings of 2 separate cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct.
So, that being said, And I go back to, it would be fair to say that a bit of Wayne Zurl is in Sam Jenkins?
Sure. Yeah, it has to be. I cheat in writing my dialogue. If Sam is saying it, most likely it's what came out of my mouth. It makes it easy that way. It's just like writing dialogue for other characters. Sam's wife talks a lot like my wife. I kind of had a casting call, and I envision who would be a good character and how they make their delivery and their idioms and all that. So my dialogue comes from all kinds of people to give everyone a different voice, which is necessary because you can't have everyone speaking the same or the reader would go crazy.
That is true. Do you sit in the town square and people watch the comings and goings of the natives and listen to the conversations they have with each other and file that away for future stories, that like you say, the idioms and the body language and the body build and all the things that are with those two people as they're communicating?
Absolutely. I keep a little scratch pad with me, and if I see something that I really need to remember at my age, I have to write it down or it'll be gone forever. So yes, if I hear something or I see something, I certainly file that away and use it at an appropriate time.
And of course, when you're in the local Waffle House or in the local restaurant, I know you're called honey, darling, or sweetie.
Sugar and yeah, okay, that kind of covers it, right? Yeah, that's why I have the police officer who's the administrative officer. Her name is Betty Lambert. It only took her about half a book to start calling Sam Darlin. And people say, well, they having a thing together? I said, no, I go to Walmart, and the cashier calls me Darlin or Sugar or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
It's a term of endearment, and ladies and gentlemen, we don't mean anything sexual by it. It's the way that we were raised, that the females were, well, even the guys, even my dad, he called women darling and sweetie and honey. It's the way we were raised in the South. It was a term of endearment. So when we, and do you get a lot of yes, sir, and no, sir?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Younger people are respectful, and an amount of their training shows up in that. You know that their parents told them. You call somebody older than you, sir, or ma'am, or what have you.
Do you find, and the reason I ask this question is because I've had several people from different parts of the country say, I'm not that old. Do you find it offensive, or maybe not offensive, but not sure the word I'm looking for? I know it's different when someone does that to you, when someone says that to you?
No. Being in the Army and the police department, which was a paramilitary organization, there was something expected and implied respect due to the rank and all that. So, I just think of that as good manners. If I'm talking to anyone, especially when I was teaching a class and all, I used to call on someone. No matter what their age was, I'd say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, what's your question? So I like that. That's a pretty good way to do business.
I agree, and I think we have lost some of that with our young people, and that has to be taught from the cradle. As soon as the little one can speak, that goes along with please and thank you.
Sure.
That was some of the first words that my children learned was yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, ma'am, or sir. And to be polite, to open doors for people, whether man or woman, allow them to go first, especially a woman. And I think we've gotten away from some of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true. Life is a lot different now than it was 50 years ago.
I think we need to get back to it. Well, before we run out of time, because we're going to run out of time here. If people want to read your Sam Jenkins books, is there an order they need to be read in, or are they standalones?
They're all standalones, but you'll see that there is a progression, starting with the first and ending up with the last. Characters are introduced, and they'll probably perpetuate. If anybody is a stickler on doing things in order, on my website, under Wayne's Writings, just click on the chronology, and the whole thing will come up and tell you when the book is supposed to be taking place and when it was published. And this goes for both the novels and the novelettes. But as you said, they're standalones, and you can pick them up and grab one. You know, if you saw one at a used bookstore, it wouldn't be a tragedy if you read number 5 before you read number 1.
What have you got coming out now? Are you through with the Sam Jenkins series, or will he continue?
No, he's continuing. The big change in life for Sam Jenkins comes in the next book that comes out next year called A Bleak Prospect. And I'm working on another one now, and I don't really want to say what's going to happen. The one I'm doing now is a big missing persons case down here in Tennessee. And Sam and his comical sidekick, John Gallagher, are working this case. And you'll see that there's a big change, though, in the whole way the people down here are going to be doing business, professional way they're doing business. So that's just something that will come up after A Bleak Prospect and carry on to the next book, which is called Missing Person, Private Eyes.
So it would be safe to say that I probably need to bring you back after the first of the year so we can launch your book on this show.
I would love to talk to you again.
All right. So tell the folks, Wayne, where all you can be found. I told you this hour was going to fly by, and it is flying by faster than an eagle in the wind. Tell the folks where you can be found. No, y'all cannot go get his books now. You're going to have to wait till we're through with the show, or you'll miss something. Tell them where you can be found and on Facebook and your website and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, the best way to encounter just about everything is on my website, which is WayneZurlBooks.net. And from there, you can find me on Facebook. I'm under Wayne Zurl. I don't use any aliases or crazy names or anything like that. They are on Twitter. And if you go to Amazon and just put Wayne Zurl in a search, and all the books will come up, and you have the opportunity to get eBooks and hard copies.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can't tell you enough how much fun it is to talk to someone who is in law enforcement, been in law enforcement, because all of y'all know this is my first love. This is something that I have loved all of my life. And to have the honor and the privilege and the pleasure of talking to Wayne and talking about goings on in law enforcement, and sadly it has changed over the years. And what I would like to see, and I'm sure Wayne would, is to see the respect that we should all have for law enforcement, because just like our men and women in the military, our men and women in law enforcement are there for two reasons: to protect and serve, and because they're very selfless. And when I say selfless, I mean it. They put their lives on the line every single day they put on the uniform. And they do it because they love it and they want to take care of us. Wayne, I don't know about you, but I don't know any officer that puts on his uniform and walks out the door with the intent to take a life. Do you?
Never happened. No, that's total fantasy. of course, there are hundreds of thousands of cops around the world, and you're not going to have 100% all-stars. Somebody's going to make a mistake here or there, but 99.9% of those cops are good people, and they are out there. Many of them working for very little money and doing a tough job.
And they have families too, ladies and gentlemen. They go home at night to wives and husbands and children and mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and aunts and uncles and grandparents. So the next time that you are stopped by an officer, before you get your panties in a wad, remember this: they are human. And whether you thought you did anything wrong or not, be kind, because I want to see that person go home. And another thing, if you're out and about and you see an officer, walk up to him and thank him. If you're in a restaurant and you see an officer eating a meal, pick up their check, because it's like Wayne says, their life has value. And if we paid them what they were worth, we could not afford them. Would that be a fair statement, Wayne?
You can't believe how many occupations make more money than the average cop on the street. And they don't have anything close to the danger and the possibilities for injury that a street cop has.
So, again, thank you, kind sir, for your service, both in the military and as a cop. Thank you for being an author. Thank you for being here. Don't hang up when the show goes dark, because I have some things to tell you.
Okay.
But
and thank you for having me.
Well, I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it. I could just sit down and talk to you for hours, and you could tell me stories and regale me with wonderful things that happened on the beat. And maybe we'll do that next time. So, ladies and gentlemen, be kind to our law enforcement. They're the only thing that stands between us and anarchy. And don't complain when they come to you, because they're there for a reason. They really are some neat people. I'm married to one, and I have a grandson that's one. We will be off tomorrow night. On Wednesday night, that begins our anniversary month. It will be the first anniversary month of this show. On Wednesday night, I will be doing an anniversary show, and I am dedicating it to my granddaughter, Ramonda, because the first show that I did was in her honor. As all of you all know, we lost her 2 years ago on July the 2nd. I will be doing an anniversary show for her on Wednesday night. I encourage every one of you to listen. Feel free to call in. I'll have some stories to tell. We'll play some music that she loved. And then the rest of the week will be authors and all kinds of good stuff. So tune in Wednesday night and listen to the anniversary show dedicated to Ramonda and the gift of life that she gave when she lost her life. Now, you all know that I say a few things at the end of the show, and one of those things is, ladies and gentlemen, this world is made up of dreamers. If your child has a dream, please encourage that child in its dream, no matter how silly it may sound to you, because you don't ever know where that child will lead us. And our children are our future, and sadly, ladies and gentlemen, we lose too many of our children every single day. And when we lose those children, that's a piece of the tapestry that can never be rewoven, because when that child is gone, we don't get them back. And I'll also say a few things at the end of the show, and one of them is, if you want to achieve success or greatness, stop asking permission. Because if you ask permission, you're going to be told no. Just go out and do it. And instead of just feeling special, be special. Because when you are special, people know it. And also understand this, ladies and gentlemen, that your smile is your logo. People see that. Your personality is your business card. Every action that you have with someone creates a reaction. and that happens to be your business card. So if you have a bad personality, you're going to be handing out a bad business card. How you leave others feeling after having an experience with you, if you don't believe that becomes your trademark, I could tell you stories. So when you walk away from someone, understand that you have left your trademark with them. Now, you can either leave them with a good experience or a bad experience, but I think at the end of your days, you want to be known for having made a difference, because I certainly do. So until next Wednesday night, this is Yvonne Mason with Off the Chain and my guest, author Wayne Zurl, who will be coming back. We wish to say thank you for listening in, and we will see you on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time here at Off the Chain. Good night. Okay, we are off the air, but they will hear us in archives when it goes up. But what I wanted to tell you, Wayne, is when we get off the show tonight, the show will go up into archives, and when it archives, I'll put the post on my Facebook page and tag you in it.
Okay.
Take that and promote it everywhere. This is my gift to you. This is your show. Use it. But it gets better than that. Tomorrow, I will put it up on SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Spreaker, Podcast.com, and Podcast Garden, which are 5 different podcasts. I will also tag you in those links once they go up. Use it. That's yours to promote anywhere. This show is also heard on iTunes, FM.com, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and Stitcher.
Goodness gracious, how about that?
So you're going to be heard all over the world, literally, all over the world.
Excellent.
And I will talk to you about coming back on after the first of the year so we can talk more about Sam Jenkins, the hijinks he gets into, maybe some of your is the cop.
Okay, sure, we can do that. Whenever is good time for you, let me know.
All right, darling, and thank you so much for being on the show. You made my night.
Well, thank you so much.
And we will talk later.
Very good. Good night.
Good night.
Ready to make fashion fireworks? Right now at Old Navy, get up to 60% off the entire store during Old Navy's Red, White, and New sale. Save big with items for $2, $4, $6, and $8, including women's tanks for just $2. Plus, 2 days only, tomorrow and Sunday, get flag tees for the whole family for just $2.50. All summer essentials up to 60% off, like flip-flops, tank tops, swimwear, and shorts at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Select styles only. Entire store offer valid 6/28 to 7/5. Excludes clearance, gift cards, register lane items, jewelry, today only deals, 2 day only deals. Ready to make fashion fireworks? Right now at Old Navy, get up to 60% off the entire store during Old Navy's Red, White, and New sale. Save big with items for $2, $4, $6, and $8, including women's tanks for just $2. Plus, 2 days only, tomorrow and Sunday, get flag tees for the whole family for just $2.50. All summer essentials up to 60% off, like flip-flops, tank tops, swimwear, and shorts at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Select styles only. Entire store offer valid 6/28 to 7/5. Excludes clearance, gift cards, register lane items, jewelry, today only deals, 2 day only deals.